Hello and welcome. My name is Amanda, and today I have for you my January reading wrap up. This month I read a total of 6 books in both audiobook and ebook format. I didn't get the chance to pick up a physical book because it took me quite a while to finish one of my ebooks that I had started reading last year and never finished. So I read quite a bit, but I'm definitely looking forward to picking up some more physical books in February. So the first book I listened to was Stranger in My Arms, and this was a 10-hour and 52-minute audiobook that I gave a 2-star rating. I guess I thought, this was a romance book, and I wasn't anticipating it to be a romance book. So it was like, I guess, probably what a typical romance book would be. Obviously not like 50 Shades of Grey level or anything. But yeah, I don't know. I was expecting just some kind of historical book. And that's not, I mean, partially what I got, but not really. So I kind of, I think for that, that's probably the main reason why I gave it 2 stars. It was the first book I read, so I'm trying to remember if there were any other, like, specifics on why I didn't like it. But that's basically all I'm coming up with at this point. So I didn't enjoy it so much, but if you're into that genre, you might like it, or it might just be too kind of predictable and similar to, I guess, what other romance books would be. I don't really know. The next book I listened to was A Perfect Union of Contrary Things. This is a biography on Maynard James Keenan, who was the singer of the bands Tool and Pussifer and a couple other ones, but this was an 11-hour and 11-minute audiobook that I gave a 3-star rating. It was interesting. I basically mainly read it because Skylar had asked if we could use one of the Audible credits to buy the book. And since Skylar listened to it at the end of last year, I wanted to read it towards the beginning of this year. That way everything would still be fresh in both of our minds and we could kind of chat about what we learned about him. He's a really interesting guy. He did quite a bit in, I mean, he's still alive, but from the point that the book starts up until his age when they stopped writing, he did quite a few really interesting things. I didn't know he was in the military. He was very artistic from a young age. Singing just kind of happened for him. It wasn't really like a, yeah, I know I'm a good singer, I'm going to start a band. It was just kind of one of those shocking things he discovered about himself. He was into track and cross country. He walked from, where was it, Boston to Michigan. I think that's where his family was from. You know, and just learning about him, his decisions to move from basically like central United States to the East Coast to the West Coast, and how his career got started with singing and how he formed his band. Just everything like that. He has a very calming voice, which if you heard any of the songs that he wrote, you wouldn't picture his voice to sound the way it does. But it was interesting. I thought it was a pretty long book. There were definitely points where I was just like, okay, I'm done listening to this. Like, I'm not really interested anymore. But overall, I think it was a really neat book to read, and one that was nice for Skylar and I to be able to discuss. The next book I have is Foundation, which is actually the last book I finished this month, by Isaac Asimov, and this is the ebook that I had started last year. I only got 20 pages in. So the book is a total of 224 pages, but I read 220 this month, and I gave it a 1-star rating. A friend recommended this series to me because at one point we were talking about the movie Ex Machina, and he had I don't know, maybe we started talking about iRobot, and then he brought up this series that was written by the same author as iRobot. And then we were going to buddy read it together, and then I never kept up with it, and things happened. It's a sci-fi book, and I do really like sci-fi, but I guess the kind of sci-fi I like has to be pretty action-packed. I don't like a lot of just like political talk and I guess sort of villainous monologues that stretch on for pages and pages where they're like, I'm going to do this and this is going to happen and you don't believe me right now, but it will happen. And then, you know, the next chapter is, see, I told you so, sort of thing. It was really hard to keep the timeline together. And there were, like 5 sections in the book. And each section had a different main character. So it was really hard to keep them together and like how they related to each other and what their point in the story was and why it was important. I do have the second book, but I don't know if I'm gonna read it. I just don't think this is a series for me. So that was a bit of a bummer, but I got to test it out. That'll probably be my lowest rating for the year. So at least I guess I got it out of the way early. Who knows? I also read The Shadow Queen by CJ Redwine, I think, or Redwin. This was an 11-hour and 29-minute audiobook that I gave a 3-star rating. It's a book that I have had on Audible for quite a while now. And I think my library has the second book on audiobook, and then the third book is just an ebook. So I figured I would at least listen to the first book and see if it was a series I wanted to continue. From my understanding, I think there's 4 books total. The first 3 books are all focus on different characters, and then the 4th book brings them all together. So you could definitely read them as standalones. I'm not sure if at any point things are going to overlap or bridge between the books, or if they're just going to be completely separate until they all come together. So The Shadow Queen was okay. It's kind of a Snow White retelling. So you've got the wicked stepmother. She's got magical powers, and so does the princess, who should be queen. This boy who can shift into a dragon. His kingdom needs help from ogres that are basically, they were released from this other magic caster spell. So they go into the kingdom and try to ask the queen for help, but she doesn't really keep her word. She's just not a very good character. So she ends up bringing one of them into her army, more or less, to do her bidding for her. It's got all the typical tropes of a young adult book. You've got your insta-love, you've got your lost princess, you've got your orphaned children, you've got very predictable endings, and all sorts of things. The magic system in the book could have been really good, but it didn't expand on it too much. So I don't know if the other books will, which kind of makes me want to continue with the series, but I think after the second book, if it's just kind of a meh 3-star read, I'm probably not going to continue just because it's really not worth my time. So the other ebook that I read was Always and Forever, Lara Jean by Jenny Han. This is the 3rd book in the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series. I borrowed it from my library and it was 328 pages. I gave it a 3-star rating. I thought it was cute. It was a nice little contemporary, really quick read. I just wanted to finish the series because I think they have announced that they're doing the, what is it, P.S. I Still Love You, as is the second book on Netflix. So that probably means they'll do the third one, and I just wanted to wrap the series up. And I thought it was a pretty good ending too. It, I don't know, not much more to say about it. It's just a cute little contemporary that follows a high school romance. You get a lot more about Lara Jean and Peter and their struggles with graduation and the potential for long distance relationships because of college and the like. So that was that. And then the last book I listened to was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This was a 22-hour and 3-minute audiobook that I gave a 3-star rating. I borrowed it from my library, and I struggled when I finished this because I didn't really like the book, but there was part of me that kind of wanted to give it a 4-star rating. But basically, I didn't feel like I knew the point of the story until halfway or over halfway into the book. It just basically starts out describing the character, and you get a lot of background about the other characters in the story, which helps with kind of understanding why they did what they did and the big thing towards the end of the book. But I don't know, I just felt like it really dragged on, and none of these characters are like really good characters. They're not very good people. And so it was hard to be invested and kind of care about their backstories just because they were pretty terrible. But it basically takes place on a university campus. There's this really small group that is basically taught by one professor. It's hard to get into. It's a classic Greek group. And so it turns into a tight-knit bunch, and then through their learnings about classic Greek, like literature, language, history, all that stuff, the kids kind of unearth something in an attempt to do this thing, which leads to them committing a crime, which then leads to a cover-up and a potential killing off of one of the members of the group. So I don't know. It was interesting. This is my second book that I've read by Donna Tartt. I read The Goldfinch last year, and I absolutely loved that book. And this just kind of, I don't know, it just didn't meet my expectations, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But then I had that part where I struggled between whether it was a 3-star read or a 4-star read. I ran it through my rating system, which I have updated a little bit. And it just, I think I'm pretty good with it being a 3-star read because it wasn't something I particularly loved. One thing I did really like, though, is that it was read by Donna Tartt. And I think it's really cool when authors do the narration for their stories. It definitely gives you a better feeling of how they want you to read the story and whatnot. So, like I said at the beginning, in total I read 6 books this month. My pages read count was 548, and time listened for audiobooks was 55 hours and 35 minutes. And my average star rating, I think this is the lowest average star rating I've ever had in a month, but it was 2.5. Which, I mean, obviously I gave, 4 of my books 3 stars, 1 star, and 1 2 stars. So that is it for my wrap up. I would love to know what you read in the month of January, if you read any of these books, and what your thoughts were on them. I would love to hear that. So please do let me know down in the comments below, and I will chat with you there until my next video. Bye!